Hey everybody, welcome back to the internet. We just hit 1 million views on this channel. I just wanted to take a minute to thank all of the people who've been watching all these. I know this channel is still fairly new, but I've been having a lot of fun so far. I know most people hate YouTube comments, but I actually have fun reading through all the comments I get on all my videos. So thanks to everybody, you guys are awesome. Now today we've got some long stories, starting with Entitled Mom stalks me through the grocery store for my bag. So this happened a couple days ago, and the more I think about it, the more disturbed I get. For some backstory, I'm a huge musical theater nerd, and a few years ago I got to see Phantom of the Opera in Seattle. And as a souvenir, I bought a tote bag with the play's logo printed all over it, that I'm still very fond of. Now the show is playing in a theater in my area, and there's been a lot of local buzz about it. I went to see it this weekend and decided to carry my Phantom tote for a while since my love of the show has been bolstered, and the bag is a great conversation starter for other theater nerds I may meet in public who recognize the show that my bag references. Now let's set the stage. A couple days ago I went to the grocery store near my apartment to stock up on some pretty standard food stuff. And when I walked in, I saw the cashier I'm friendly with working the self-checkout kiosk, so I stopped to talk to him for a few minutes. My bag was hanging over my shoulder, within clear view of the doors. After a couple minutes into my chat, I felt a tap on my shoulder, so I turned around to address whoever was trying to get my attention, and found a relatively normal-looking woman. Average size, normal clothing, normal hairstyle. Nothing to indicate this woman was a Karen type in any way. She says, "Is that the Phantom of the Opera on your bag?" I say, "Yeah, do you like the show?" She says, "It's fine. I took my daughter last weekend to see it. She loves musicals." I say, "Me too. I thought it was a really great show. The cast did a great job, and did you buy that bag there? I didn't see that bag at any of the booths." "Actually, I got this in Seattle when I saw the show a few years ago." "Oh, because there really weren't any souvenirs at the show my daughter liked. She would love that bag." She looks at me unexpectedly. I say, I'm sorry your daughter didn't find any keepsakes she wanted." She was so disappointed she didn't have anything to remember the show by. She would love your bag. Love it." "Well, I know I love this bag. I hope the next time your daughter sees a show, she finds a souvenir she likes." I'm pretty nervous at this point because I'm very non-confrontational, and I've read plenty on this subreddit to know entitled parents like causing scenes. I grip my bag very tightly, trying to hold it against my body with my elbow and with both hands on the straps. "I've got to go do my shopping now, excuse me." To my pleasant surprise, she didn't say anything else, so I really thought I'd gotten away without any crazy happening. I grabbed a basket and went to the cereal aisle. As I'm putting Cheerios into my basket, Entitled Mom also enters the aisle. She doesn't have a cart or basket, and she doesn't try to approach me again. Instead, she just stares at me. I decide to try and ignore her and go about my business as usual, grabbing the things on my shopping list. Every aisle I go down, she follows me into. Every single one, just staring at me. I'm certain she was just waiting for me to let my guard down. I go through the self-checkout, and she hangs by the discount bread rack nearby, still watching. Knowing she is probably not going to give this up when I leave the store, I flag down my acquaintance working the self-checkout kiosk and tell him I'm pretty sure that the entitled mom is going to follow me to my car. He's wary of her and walks me and my purchases out to the parking lot, and doesn't leave until my bags are loaded and I'm in my car and doors are locked. I was still keeping an eye on entitled mom, and sure enough, she left the store when I did, watching me as I got to my car. I saw her get into her own car, still watching me. My acquaintance who walked me out went back to the store, and I was left alone in my vehicle, caught in an awkward staring match with the entitled mom, also in her car. She didn't even try to hide the fact that she was watching me. It dawned on me that the entitled mom was likely to follow me home, so instead of taking my usual exit that would take me back to my apartment, I drove over to the exit that turned off onto the more major street. Entitled mom followed me like I expected. I sat there for a couple minutes at least, waiting. See, there's an intersection at the corner of the grocery store with really long light times, so cars end up lining up a fair amount. I waited until the last possible second until that light turned green and unleashed a wave of cars, turning right just before they hit, leaving entitled mom stranded to wait for them to pass if she wanted to follow me. I drove up the street and got on the highway, then took the exit for the next neighborhood over and took the back way to my apartment. My car is pretty noticeable, it's bright orange, and I didn't want to take any chances that entitled mom may recognize my car going back the way I came. It seems I successfully ditched her because no one has come banging on my door demanding I give them my Phantom tote. Needless to say, I will be leaving that bag at home from now on. Well, yeah, what do you expect? You can't just walk around with nice things and expect people not to try and steal them from you. I mean, you should be more considerate to these Karens who just want to take everything you own. Alright, this next story is from Choosing Beggars called Ex-Boyfriend Gets Angry at Me When My Parents Don't Hand Over 15 grand. So some backstory. I dated this guy for 3 years and was a nice guy, choosing beggar, and entitled person all wrapped into one. I have tons of stories, but this made me laugh. I was the only one who worked, and he sat at home eating macas and playing games, drinking and being lazy. He destroyed my bank account daily and threatened to kill himself or my family if I told him I wanted to leave him. Anyway, one day I received a phone call after work. He says, "Hey, I need you to ask your parents for something." I say, "What, like?" He says, "I just want them to give me a loan." My parents are very wealthy, but despise my boyfriend because of how much he takes from me. I say, "No, sorry, I really doubt they'll give you a loan. I already owe them so much for keeping my car on the road. I only need $15,000. So me, silent for a heartbeat, and said oh so carefully, "They're not gonna give you $15,000. What would you even need that for?" He said, "I'm gonna buy a car." I say, "$15,000? You could buy a decent one for $5. I'm still not asking my mom and dad to give you $15,000. I myself would never ask. But I want a decent car, a new one if I can, and besides, I can pay them back when my house sells." His mom's house isn't even on the market yet, and he thinks it's gonna sell next week, and he's gonna pay mom and dad back real quick. I say, "Houses take a long time to sell. It'll take years." "No, it won't." I say, "Yes, it will. I've done this 4 times living with my family, and even so, my mom and dad aren't going to give you $15,000. He explodes. "That's because they freaking hate me." I say, here we go. He says, "They're horrible freaking people. I should burn their house down and make them have nothing." I say, "They don't have to give you anything." He says, "That's because they freaking hate me. They always have. Selfish freaking minors." I say, "Yeah, I know. Look, I gotta go." I hang up and I call my mom and she explodes into laughter. Dad does too. We had another good laugh when my boyfriend asked me to pay for skydiving lessons so he can start up a skydiving school. But at this point of time, I'm just happy he's blocked on all social media. After this happened, he didn't talk about it much, but showed me stupidly expensive cars. I paid no mind. I was too busy thinking of ways of escaping his abuse. Oh man, this person sounds insufferable. I just don't know how you can end up, in a serious relationship with someone like this. I get that people feel trapped once they're into it, but how did you not see any of this coming when you first met him? Anyways, it's good that she got away from him in the end, at least. So this is malicious compliance called, "You bullied me at school. You want booze? Got ID?" So I was talking to my mom on a car ride to work this morning, and this story came back to me. She called me a horrible person for this. While at school, this guy with the same name as me was pretty friendly to me, but I found out that he actually had feelings for me. He was gay, or bi, I don't know. But I told him I wasn't interested. I didn't swing that way, after all. In response, he then proceeds to make my life hell at high school. Catching him staring over at me while I was getting changed for gym class. I had to change in a shower cubicle to get away from him. Spreading rumors that I was still in the closet, things like that. Not only was it uncomfortable, it made me more of a bullying target than I was. I wasn't popular anyway. I didn't like what everyone else was doing and such. And because he was gay, he was using affirmative action in his favor, calling me homophobic if I brought it to a teacher's attention. So very often, I would get in trouble for not being tolerant. I was so relieved when he left the 4th year. I stayed on for another 2 years to get higher qualifications. I later got a job at a supermarket on the tills to pay my way through college. One fateful day, this guy shows up with a bottle of cheap alcohol in hand. I think it was Lambrini or something like that. He sees me at the checkout and he has the biggest smile on his face. He comes to my checkout. I don't remember the conversation exactly, but it went something like this. He says, "Hey, how are you?" So me, pretending not to recognize him. "Hello there, I'm fine, thank you. Yourself?" Reaching for the bottle on the conveyor belt. "This all for you today?" He says, "Yeah, I'm good, just meeting a couple mates tonight." I say, "That's good, do you have ID?" In this chain of supermarkets, we have a challenge 25 policy. If the person looks under 25, we ask for ID to prove they're over 18. Since he was in my year of high school, I knew we were the same age. I was about 20 at the time. He says, "I don't need ID, you know what age I am." I say, "I'm afraid I don't, sir. I can't sell you alcohol unless you prove to me you're over 18. He yells to get the attention of my supervisor. "We were in the same year at school." I say, "We were?" The supervisor joined me at this point. Our store policy means that the supervisor or manager must back up the staff member, as it is the person who sells the alcohol that is liable, as well as the store. At this point, I didn't need to say anything. She handled it so well, as she normally did. She says, "What's the problem here, sir?" "He won't sell me my drink. He knows who I am and that I'm over 18. I says, "Sorry, sir, but he did ask you for ID. If you don't show it, we can't allow the sale to continue." He stormed off to the customer service desk, leaving the bottle at my checkout. I later got pulled up by my manager to her office about the incident, since he complained, and tried the homophobic line again from school. Such an accusation could have gotten me disciplined or fired. Thankfully, the supervisor came with me and backed me up, saying it was purely the refusal of the sale for the cheap drink that was the cause. Such complaints were common. I didn't remember him from school after all. After all, I didn't want to risk a criminal record for selling alcohol to a minor. But boy, it finally felt good to get back at him in some way. Even this petty victory was sweet. Yeah, I mean, that is kind of like a petty little story, but like, how did you know that he didn't have ID? If he had ID, then he would have just showed you and that would have been the end of it. There wouldn't be a story to this. And next up, we have a Let's Not Meet story called He Watched Me Sleeping and Pried My Window Open. So I was at home alone in my previous apartment, in a not-so-great neighborhood. My apartment was on the ground level, and my bedroom window faced a back alley. A dumpster sat less than 2 car lengths away, where homeless people often rummaged. Just before dawn one morning, I heard a tapping at my window. My back was to the window, and my eyes were now wide open. It was still dark outside. I sleep with my lamp on, and my worn-out vertical blinds were missing a slat, causing a 6-inch gap. So I knew that whoever, or whatever, the source of the tapping could see me lying in the bed as plain as day. The tapping was brief, maybe 5 or 6 taps, so I spent the next 5 seconds or so frozen, bizarrely trying to convince myself it was something, anything else but a person watching me and tapping on my window. Maybe an animal? But then came more tapping. No, I was faced with the terrifying reality that someone had been watching me through my window in the dark for who knows how long, and he'd decided to tap on my window. Had one of the homeless people become aggressive during their dumpster dive? Something told me that nothing good could come from turning around and looking at the window. If he got me to look at him, what then? Remember, my back was to this guy, so I sat up slowly, rubbing my eyes, pretending I was too groggy to hear him. I stood up and, hazily, made my way out of my bedroom, as though I were going to the restroom or something. Once I was out of his sight, I ran to the phone to dial 911, considering whether to forget any embarrassment of being in my t-shirt and underwear, and bolt out my front door, which was out of sight from the intruder. I wasn't sure I could outrun whoever it was, or whether anyone would help me if I couldn't. Before I could make my decision, I heard the loud pop of my window being pried open. I thought my heart would jump from my chest. At the same time, I could hear my upstairs neighbor, Mike, descending his stairs. I opened my door a few inches and peeked out to ask for his help. Mike was a big guy, and I'd heard he was trained in martial arts of some sort. He didn't hesitate to respond, hustling to the back of my apartment to see what was going on. I heard rumbling of someone being thrown against the wall and into the bushes. A few moments later, Mike came around to my front door, telling me not to worry about seeing that guy again. He'd beaten him up pretty badly. I wanted to believe Mike, that the would-be intruder was maybe dumpster diving, but that he would hopefully never venture this way again. But it wasn't a homeless person. According to Mike, when the guy escaped, he ran to the front of my building, hopped into a red sports car, and sped off. My neighborhood wasn't a red sports car kind of place. The police later told me that the intruder was likely someone who'd seen me out somewhere and followed me home to find where I live. So, Mr. Window Tapper, I still wonder what you would have done if you'd gotten inside before Mike caught you. I wonder if you still follow me, and because of that, I often find myself wishing that Mike had put an end to you. If you found out where I now live, let's never meet. Wait, so you never actually saw the guy? By the way this story is told, it almost sounds like his neighbor Mike, set the whole thing up just to come across as being a hero. Like he paid some guy to tap on the window and then break in. Because all you hear in this story is that Mike just comes out and is like, oh yeah, I beat him up real good, you don't have to worry about him anymore. I know that's probably not what happened, but the way this story is written, it's kind of funny to think that. So this next one's a short one called You Like D&D? From Tales from Retail. Hey yo, this is just a short little memory from my old job. Okay, so I was working at a gas station for about 5 months, working the 2 to 10. When I moved to a new town with friends, I had to switch to overnights, 9 p.m. to 7 a.m., at a location in my new town. On my first night there, I had someone there to help, since there were different tasks for overnight than the 2 to 10 shift I was used to. This guy was so clueless and completely lacked any social awareness. He just says, "Do you like D&D?" I say, "Not really." He says, "Look at this meme." The meme is D&D related. I say, "I don't get it." He says, "It's D&D." I say, "Yeah, and I just told you that I don't really like D&D." He continues to show me D&D related things until he leaves at 3 a.m. This guy didn't even show me how to do things I needed to do, but I only lasted 4 shifts there anyway. I think we all have stories of some awkward person trying to make conversation when you just don't want anything to do with it. And on to the final story for today from I Don't Work Here Lady, called Today I Tased a Guy Over Some Pizza. So I work for a small pizza place in an area dominated by pizza places. We live outside a big US city known for its X-style pizza. So not only are there numerous restaurants capitalizing on that, there are also many cheap and easy chains around. I'm a full-time student and part-time delivery driver. It was roughly 10 p.m. and I was on what was supposed to be my last run of the night. I had taken 2 orders and pulled up the last delivery of the day. When I show up, there are people waiting in the nearest driveway to me. I always pull up to the curb and not into driveways if I can help it. It's not uncommon for people to be waiting outside, so I walk up to them smiling. There's a lady and a guy, and the lady takes the lead looking really pissed off. She says, where's your uniform? You look so unprofessional right now. I say, I'm sorry, what was that? We don't have uniforms. I'm allowed to wear literally anything I want. It was a decently chilly day today, so I had some warm wool leggings on and a hoodie. I was just surprised by that question. I've never gotten before. She says, your uniform? You guys always wear it whenever you deliver. I have no idea what she's talking about, but I'm really tired and itching to get this over with. So at that point, I just offer some sort of apology and hold up my pizzas in my hands. She says, how much is it then? I say, $82.88. Now this is not Domino's or Pizza Hut or whatever. You can clearly see that by the fact that, unlike them, I do not have a uniform, and I don't stick the little thingy on top of my car while I deliver. On top of that, we don't have any big deals about $5 per pizza, or whatever she started promptly screaming at me about after hearing what she deemed to be an outrageous total. We certainly charge more, I can admit that, but our pizzas are made fresh with local fresh ingredients. Not bashing other places, just defending my own from the sudden wave of vitriol being thrown at me at the end of the night. I stand there like a fish out of water, just gaping at this lady as she tore into me about lying, adding too much gratuity. I don't know if other places does that for their drivers. We sure don't. And trying to scam her. I'm slowly putting together, based on some things she's saying, as well as the uniform thing, that I'm not the delivery person she was hoping to see. I tried to say that a few times, but she doesn't let me get a word in. Finally, I think she's calmed down as she stops talking to take in some deep breaths. The lady just had not been breathing while giving me the lecture of the century, and I take my opportunity. I'm sorry, ma'am, are you 12345 Street Road? I'm supposed to deliver to them. I think that maybe... That restarts her ire. Talking now about how I got the address wrong and I'm too stupid to even use a GPS properly. Side note, I don't use GPS. I know how the addresses in my area work. I grew up near here and I'm just familiar enough with the area to know where I'm going. Not relevant, but I was pretty insulted, okay? I showed her the ticket on one of the pizza boxes and say, I'm sorry for the confusion, ma'am, but I work for a generic pizza place. This here is the address I'm supposed to deliver to. I think you ordered from someone else. She does not like this, resumes screaming about calling my manager and having me fired, and I have no clue what to do. It's the end of the night, and I'm like 30 feet away from the house that is hungrily waiting for the pizzas with my cash and tip in hand. And I want nothing more than to be home. So I figure, whatever, she's not my customer, clearly. I start to walk around her. The guy she was with grabs me roughly by the arm. I yank my arm back away from him, but he keeps a good hold on it. That said, the rest of my body and one of the pizzas come flying back, resulting in burning hot pizza all over my chest and legs, and me falling almost to the ground if I weren't held up by the guy still holding on to me. So I'm sort of scrambling around, slipping and sliding in cheese and dough and sauce, while this guy had an iron grip on my one arm and I'm trying to balance the rest of the pizzas on the other. It's a mess, and there are already tears in my eyes from the hot ingredients running down my chest under my shirt. You're going to give me my pizzas, and for spilling my food and making me wait so long, I will not be paying you. I could sort of vaguely hear the lady talking, but I'm still in pain from my arm and, remember, hot food. I'm kind of panicking at this point because he's not letting me go. Now clean this up or I'll call the police, is all I remember her saying after that, but there were some more insults. She takes the pizza out of my hands, which is fine by me because I can finally get enough leverage to push the guy away from me with my second hand free. I plant my feet and stand up straight and he stumbles back. I don't know if he just wasn't expecting it or adrenaline made me decently strong in the moment. But then he's mad. He gets up really close to me and also starts to yell about assault, telling over his shoulder to call the police, and so on. I can hear she starts to do that, yelling over the phone. At that point, screw getting the pizza to the real customers who must live in a concrete bunker to not have heard any of this. I'm ready to just leave and possibly quit my job. I try to turn and go back to my car. They can have the pizzas and they can verbally assault whoever poor delivery guy is coming next. I'm in pain and could think of nothing but picking steaming hot mushrooms out of my bra in a brightly lit parking lot a couple of safe blocks from here. Apparently not on that guy's watch, because he grabs me again. He gets the hood of my hoodie and yanks, choking the heck out of me and making me stumble back. It was at this point I'm somewhat in my right mind and I have hands free enough to reach for the flashlight in my bag, which has a taser setting. My father-in-law got it for me last Christmas, and turns out he's a saint of a man who I need to call tomorrow and thank profusely. I turn it up to the proper setting, slam it into his body, and hit the button. He starts screaming bloody murder, gets all tense, and then drops to the ground. The lady is no longer on the phone and is staring at me wide-eyed. I fully expected her to charge at me or something, but she didn't. The neighbor I was supposed to deliver to finally came outside and asked what was going on. No one said anything because I was so shocked I didn't even feel the pizza in my shirt anymore, and the lady bent down talking to this guy, who was okay I think because I could hear him mumbling to her about how much it hurt. After some prodding from the neighbors nearby, I finally told them who I was and what pizza place I was with. I kind of explained what was happening, started to cry a lot, and got interrupted by the police the lady had called earlier arriving. They took the scene and everyone had to put their hands up and kneel on the ground. They separated me from the guy, asked what happened, and asked the neighbor as well. I guess they had heard the whole thing. Not sure why they asked me what was going on earlier, but okay. And had been watching out the window to see it. Which was good for me because the other lady, according to one of the officers, was trying to paint the whole thing as though I came up and assaulted them unprovoked by throwing pizzas at them and tasing her boyfriend. I got to leave pretty quickly after telling my side of things and talking to an officer for a little longer. The owner/manager of the place is a really cool guy who knows everything and has absolutely made the area a no-go zone, as well as offered me loads of free food for almost forever. Said I don't have to come to work until I'm ready, and said I can pick out what days I want on my schedule now. The police have to follow up by talking to me again later in the week. An ambulance ended up there as well, and I found out my burns aren't serious, just really painful, and will go away in a few days. All I really know is that the guy has some other violent history that makes it likely that they are going to press charges on him for assaulting me, and they really wanted me to cooperate. I probably will, I think. But it took me 3 hours just to manage to clean this up into a legible story, and I'm super duper tired and still pretty shaky. Thanks for reading, I know that was long. I think it's funny in a lot of these stories where, when you're dealing with these entitled people and then they say, "I'm calling the police." In your head, you're just thinking, great, thanks, please do, because you're the one that's going to be getting in trouble for this. I think that these people think that if I'm the one who called the police, then it's the people I'm targeting that are going to be the ones that get in trouble. Whew. Anyways, hopefully you guys enjoyed all these long stories. It's been a bit of a long day already, so thanks for watching.